There they are. Hello and welcome to Photography Talk with three Black Pride grads. I'm Greg Claycore. This is my bud Ken Nelson, and his my other bud Mark Skinner, looking stoic in that Rembrandt lighting at his abode. Okay, here we go. Kenny didn't get the burgundy memo. Kenny, Mark got the.
You know I'm always in black.
Okay, you always men in black. Okay, you're in black. Well, today's episode, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is it's going to sound a little funky, but it's Scopophilia. Did I hear somebody laughing? Or was that a horse or something? Anyway, now that the barn door is closed, Scopophilia, which is the joy or love of seeing. Plain and simple, nothing freaky, Scopophilia. And for this episode, which came out of up here, um, I wanted to just do a light episode, just show some of your favorite pictures and keep on moving. This is probably going to be one in a series because photography is about seeing and capturing, and for whatever reason that makes us press that shutter, photography should be fun. And get to know your camera and keep shooting. That's all I got to say with that. I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again. So let's get into it. Anything you guys got? You want to start off? Top it. Thoughts, comments.
No comments.
Mr. Skinner, are you awake? Stay with
Huh?
us.
No, no, yeah, no,
All right.
I'm. I think, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I hear you.
I think he was asleep then. Oh, there go the pictures.
I don't.
All right,
I
here's
didn't know
my
this was called. I
first
didn't know this was called photography talk, but now I know. Okay.
photography talk with three Black Pratt grads. Okay. Anyway, because that's what we do. We talk about photography. Sometimes it's technical. Sometimes we don't promote any machines right now. Well, we could get into that. You guys love to talk about, especially Mark. Mark, you love the machines that capture the images. We could have a discussion about that. Just, I won't be saying a whole lot, but that's okay. So, my first image. I love train yards. And one of the things that it takes me, I kind of realized when I was doing it, I was like, this kind of takes me back to the 70s. 70s when the graffiti artists were kind of at their peak in New York City, and they would tag a whole side of a train. And a lot of people hated it, most of the commuters and stuff, because they couldn't see out of the windows to know what stop was next. But those of us, kind of with art twist, we kind of loved it. I loved it. I mean, just the talent of these guys who would just, excuse me, tag a side of a train with God knows what. You never know what it was going to be. It takes me back, and it's kind of fun. And I always like the colors. The train cars are always funky, because they've been out on the weather and they're just doing the best they can. But sometimes, every now and then, I almost said a makeup artist, uh, an artist who would do something like this kind of blends the whole color scheme, and just he's kind of got that WTF kind of look on his face, like, what, you looking at me? I'm rolling here. I don't know, but I like it. It's just a fun image to look at, and um, especially with like the Union Pacific Railroad tag right right in the middle of whatever he's conjuring up there. And I get a kick out of it. It's just this kind of image brings me joy. So I captured it. I left the wheels in there so I could get the whole train feel. But the rust colors, or I've got a thing for rust and weathering and all of that. Okay, we can move along. I'll kind of spit. You guys got anything on this? Do you want to no comment?
Well, I want to ask you. I mean, look, it looks like he's got a cup of Joe there. I mean, it's. I mean, you wouldn't happen to know who that character is supposed to be, would you?
No idea.
Right,
No
because it
idea what
looks
it
like
is.
Kurt Vonnegut to me. I don't know.
Well, you never know. Some of these artists are quite versed in all sorts of literature, and they might have used him as inspiration. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't
hear you.
say. So it was just a fun image. Kurt Vonnegut. I got to look him up again to see what he looks like. I don't think he had blue hair, but hey, you might have been a
Mhm.
septuagenarian or something with blue hair. If I
It, you,
grow my hair
well,
out, I might color it blue.
he lived to be a little older. Yeah, he was a very famous author. Very famous.
Okay, for sure. All right, moving right along. This one, you walking through the woods. I've been trying to spend more time in nature, and before the next bloom comes up, um, there's the cycle of life, the great cycle of life. And if you were to go to like Marshalls or Macy's or something, you'd pay top dollar for a bunch of pine needles and pine in an arrangement like this, like with a little lacquer and a little scent on there, you'd pay some big bucks for this. But I kind of like going out in nature and capturing simple little things like this that just kind of tickle the eye and please the senses, and well, at least my eye and my senses. It gives me a sense of being in nature, being part of the cycle of everybody, the circle of life.
In the pine forest.
Come on, Simba. What? In the pine forest? Yeah, why not? All right, what's next one? Next image. We got my favorite. I could live there. I could love there. I could dwell there. There's something not in the muscle bed. At the oceanside, you never know what you're going to see because every day washes up something different. Funny story. When I first landed in California, went to San Diego, walking on the beach, what do I see? A baby shark head, about that big. I said, well, what's ever eating the shark? I'm not going in that water. I'm done. So down at the seaside, and come across this thing. I've never quite seen. I'm not exactly sure what the yellow things are, but if they taste good with butter and salt, I'm in. The mussels will look wonderful, and a lot of colors and shapes and patterns, and it looks like really bad skin, but it's not. And it was just fun to see, and I captured it because I just enjoy the way it looked.
So those items were yellow and live and wiggling when you photographed this.
Not wiggling. They're clinging to the side of a rock. That's
part. Oh, they're like barnacles.
Yeah.
They're like okay.
Yeah. Do you guys know what keel hauling is? Ancient sailing days torture. It's for the real worst of the worst sailor. You never no. Did you hear?
No. I've heard the term, but I have no idea what it really means.
They would tie your wrists and your feet together, sling it over the boat. Somebody would swim under the boat, bring it up to the other side. They would attach it to the troublemaking sailor, throw him over the side, and drag him across the bottom of the ship.
Okay.
If you survived just the dunking, you could hold your breath that long. What those things would do to your back, brother, you did not want to get whatever you were doing, you probably didn't do it again. If you survived. Well, that's it. All right, next story. I got 100 sea stories. Don't get me started with sea stories. All right.
Wow.
Washington Square. This is kind of a day. Yeah. Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I'm just amazed that someone dreamed that up and a bunch of other people said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Yeah. To the point where it became part of the American vernacular.
Oh, well, British first. And then British. We got most of our nautical terms from British sailors. And,
I'm sure.
I got a gaggle of them, so don't get me started. Like 3 sheets to the wind. You've heard that one, right?
Yes, I have.
And it means what?
I don't know. I don't remember. I heard it once. But I don't
farting.
Who?
Farting.
Farting? No, that's
I thought it mean something like going quickly or something like that, leaving quickly.
No. It's actually 3 sheets to the wind. It was a term for when somebody was obviously intoxicated. They would say 3 sheets to the wind. Now, the nautical story behind that is when they would unfurl the sails. If you guys have ever been in a sailboat, wind power is absolutely amazing. When the wind grabs those sails and fills them, a gigantic sailing ship would actually stagger in the wind until it righted itself. Amazing, but it's true. I got a lot of this. So that would be 3 sheets to the wind. So when a sailor was kind of staggering, they're like, he's 3 sheets to the wind.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, my medication.
No, that's okay.
And I'm happy. All right.
You don't happen to know how. You don't. Just out of curiosity, you wouldn't happen to know how long it would take until it righted itself, do you?
Not that long. Less than 30 seconds. not less than 30 seconds. It doesn't take that long.
Oh, okay.
But I've done parasailing where there's that curved wing,
Yep.
and I jumped off the cliff in La Jolla. Man, I had no concerns whatsoever. Once that sail went up and the wind grabbed it, it was like it was like a force. It was like a man grabbed that thing. It was like, okay, we're going fly, and we went up. So,
We went parasailing, Faith and I.
yeah, off the back of the boat, right?
Yeah, off the back of the boat.
Yeah, even that you can feel the strength of the wind. Okay, we digress. This image, okay, from the air to the ground. One thing I love about New York City. You never know what you're going to run into. Excuse me. The artistry, the music, everything. Excuse me. It's all there. Washington Square Park is like another world. And this day I'm there, and there's this woman totally wrapped in pastel. And what is she doing? She's painting in pastel or drawing in pastel chalk on the ground. And it took my breath away. I was like, one of those ooh moments. And I grabbed the camera and set it up, and I got this. And I could just look at this picture for hours, just the colors and the circles in the image, because it kind of goes to her hand and back out to the color and out. And this is just a joy that my eye gets from the colors, the patterns in there, the motion, the implied motion or unimplied motion, unintentional motion that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Stationary motion, design motion. I don't know what you want to call it, but excuse me. I just enjoyed this image.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments? Anything? If not, we're moving on. And the last one, a final explosion for the joy of seeing. Uh-oh, did you get stuck?
No.
This season just passed. I think it's always a good season for the Holi Festival. It's not the real one in India, but they're having big prayers for folks who are going through the coronavirus rebirth out there in India. But hopefully this will bring them some joy and prayers, and my hearts go out to them. But just the joy of seeing this, there's just a joy of they go up and just, covered with flower. If you see these people that come out of this festival, it's a spring festival, and you know where they've been, because they're just all you see is just a face full of color. Their clothes are just fully colored with all of this, and it's just how do you capture joy in a photograph? For me, this is one of them. So
I agree. I think the rainbow of colors is joyful. I think the motion of upward movement is joyful as well. So those are two key factors that definitely signify that. And yeah, and the transition of colors from yellow through to purple. The only thing I don't see, a little bit of green, but you see almost all the other colors there. And so it's really cool to see a representation of the colors there. And they're extremely vibrant. So, and it's like, are they originated? Is it from chalk, or how is the color created?
I'm not exactly sure how they did it, but they were using like a colored flour.
Okay.
And they had bags and bags and bags and bags of it.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I think about sometimes is how safe it is to inhale that stuff while you're doing it. I'm not sure that's really safe,
Wear a mask.
Yeah, I'm sure some people had nose plugs, but I didn't see that they were really too concerned about it.
I hear you.
Well, I mean, with all those pollutants and such that are.
I'll tell you what I like a lot about this particular image is that you've got a lot of people here, but there's one individual whose face you can see. But you can't see them enough really to identify them, unless you know them well. But I mean, what's really nice is that you can tell there's one person facing us. So, the eye is drawn to that one individual and the leading lines of their arms extended, which is really nice. And that big plume in the back, the big purple plume. You know, there's
Sets
so
them
much.
out.
Yeah, there's so much dimension to that as opposed to some of the others that are a little bit more amorphous. It's really it's nice.
Yeah, I think the movement of the purple and the orange back there, and even some of the magenta, is reminiscent of a water fountain flowing up and then falling down. So it looks like a water fountain. It looks like a water fountain of color, basically.
Okay.
So it's a really cool idea.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I was looking for, because it was very, very difficult to get anybody's face with
Yes.
in action, facing the camera with all of this action going on. So when I saw this one, I was hunting. I really hunted for this one. I was circling and trying to get the light from behind me and everything. And this one kind of all came together.
So
Oh my God.
let's talk about the joy of seeing in regards to the images that you presented to us. So how do you come to terms with the joy of seeing versus the joy of being in the moment versus the joy of capturing the image at the same time? Which do you do first, or do you do one before the other, or how does that work out for you?
Well, I kind of do you want to go through them, and I'll talk about them one by one if you want.
That's your choice. You want to do that? Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sure.
Okay, so we'll
Um.
go back. We'll start at the beginning. Okay.
Okay. Uh. Okay. Yeah. Like this one. I mean, I've always loved trains. Loved the the
Right.
New York City. I've said that.
Hmm.
And rail yards, and um out west there are a lot of open rails. Excuse me. And
I'm trying
it
to make
kind
a
of
connection,
good.
Greg. Before you do that, I'm trying to make a connection between your emotion and what you see, and how do you tie them together visually, right? What comes first, the emotion to photograph, or the emotion to see, and what comes secondary, if that can actually be, quantified.
Yeah. I think it's the seeing first, and because I see a lot of stuff, of course we all do during the day, and we can't capture it all, but certain images, I mean, like that woman who does the feng shui-ish things, is like, does it bring you joy? If it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. And certain things I see just bring me joy. Certain
Hmm.
things that I'm feeling, um, you know, move me to taking the picture. This one, there was this thing was like over 100 cars long, and there was
Right.
graffiti on a good number of them.
Right.
But this one, moved me because he kind of had that
Hmm.
that Scooby Doo look on his face. Like, are you looking at me? Well, I'm looking at you. There was an interaction with his eyes and my eyes, and
Okay.
it kind of brought out an emotion in me, and I was smiling about this, and I was like, what, I got to get that one. So I did
I,
another,
but here's
go ahead.
the question I have about this one, and just this one only, is
Okay.
isn't this particular image the original, the graffiti artist's intent? I mean, what they wanted to do was to put this illustration on a train car in a specific position so that anyone who saw that scene would feel what they felt when they were finished. I mean, is this really, are you
Huh?
documenting this, or is this an original photograph? I guess is really what I'm saying. Would you consider this an original photograph, or would you consider this a sort of a document of of an existing scene in some way?
How can you separate the two?
Well, you can, because this is really someone's art that's being photographed, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, unless you tag the train yourself, it's I'm presuming that this someone created
Uh,
this illustration, right? I mean,
are we getting back into the you don't like other people photographing existing art thing?
well, I not saying I don't like it. What I'm saying is I wonder how much additional work is done to it to make it yours. I mean, it's the
Mark, I
stuff.
think I can answer that.
Okay.
I think the notion, once the photographer photographs the tagged thing in the environment, then it's
Mhm.
no longer the tag. It's the tag and the environment. So therefore, I am under the impression it's an original photograph. Because he included the foreground in the gravel, he included the wheels, he included everything else that is the layer of what was tagged. So I'm under the impression that it's an original photograph of something that just happens to include a tag.
Okay. All right. I mean, by that
The whole
reasoning,
environment.
it's interesting because Union Pacific's already also tagged it too. It's kind of it's an interesting question about ownership of the image. It's sort of like, it's three entities, you know, coalescing to I should say converging to create this image. I mean, the final image is yours, but in this case, I wonder, uh, since it's an original piece of art that's been placed on a substrate, you know, how much of that artist's intended view would they be able to claim?
It's no doubt it's the artist's work, no doubt. But like even if you do a show and you put your work up on a wall, it's no longer yours. You have the copyright to it and you could take it off the wall and walk out with it. Yes, it's yours. But what the viewer sees in it is not yours. What I saw in this was what I saw. And what I captured was what I saw. I
Okay,
mean, why
well,
shoot anything? You say, well, all of this is God's work. Why should I capture anything that God made?
we're not
What
talking
kind
about
of a
God's work.
philosophical
I mean, we're talking about a fellow artist is what I'm talking about. But I won't belabor it. I mean, it's just interesting because for me, and I've said it before, photographing, even sculptures, I find it very difficult for me to be able to find a way to claim what I'm doing, other than for the sake of reportage or documenting it, sort of like my,
so
claiming.
why even shoot models or pageant queens when it's their mother and father's work? And why should you photograph it? Well, because you get a model release.
Well, I think what you're getting at is the idea that everything you photograph is yours. And I'm just saying that when it comes to photographing artwork, there's a whole body of, there's a whole school of that idea about, how much of, artwork, Ken's example of, I mean, actually your example of putting an artwork on the wall, and someone else photographing it,
I
how
didn't
much of
say
that,
that. I
well,
did not say that.
but if you photograph a painting, that's on a wall, how
I
much
didn't
of
say
that,
that either. This
well,
isn't an open public space. I'm not talking about shooting somebody's gallery work. That's not
okay,
what I said at all.
right. Well, I mean, if it's a mural on a wall, let's say it's something that's not mobile. I mean, I think the mobility of it is probably, the best thing in your favor. But I think it's such a complete illustration. I really, you know,
Guys, I think
On the
we've
side of
gone
a
off course.
train, no, because we go on this,
We've gone off
everybody
course,
wants to see
and
somebody's
this was
work.
supposed to be light. We weren't supposed to get too involved with this. This was supposed to be just the joy of seeing. I mean, if we can just continue with that light
Yeah, let's
airiness,
move
then
along.
I
I,
really
I
think
like
it's best.
I like this. I like sides of trains. I love the color in it, and God bless whoever the artist is. Moving right along. This, again, it's like stages of life, because not everything is, butterflies and unicorns and rainbows and sunshine and daisies. This speaks to me. Some days when I'm not feeling, like, like sunshine and daisies, for lack of a better. But I realize that even the downtimes are necessary. They're part of the the cycle. I mean,
Mhm.
things live, they do their cycle. But a photograph, it's born, it lives, it has its cycle, and then it passes on. Wherever it passes on, maybe an eternally interesting photograph, or maybe to photograph we get tired of, but I never get tired of, nature and being in nature, and the joy of seeing the seasons.
Okay.
That's what works for me. All the browns and all of that. And yes, oh man, forget it. Anything about the ocean, I'm there. I love that. That all the senses of it: sights, taste, smell. Love seafood. Hearing the ocean. What did I miss out? Sight, taste, touch, seeing, and hearing the ocean. There you go. That's the other one. Excuse me. That works for me. And moving to this one, again, I have an emotional connection because I have so many emotions. And when I see different things, I love to draw.
Hmm.
And I would just love that. I wish I could, mix colors as well as this, because that's like cooking. Everybody has the same fish, the same this available to them. But when you know the secret of seasoning just a certain way, it takes it off the charts. And I feel the same way about this and color and the shadow. Even her shadow is drawing too. I love that. And her shadow is blue. And I, took some of the saturation out of this lightly just to bring that up again. And it just has emotional impact to me.
Okay.
The same as this. I could have paired those two pictures together because they're almost the same color. And
Hmm.
it is light, it is airy, it is joyful, and it's colorful, and it's this explosion of life. And and of course the Holi festival, the Indian Holi festival, is a spring festival. It's welcoming back um, spring from long winter, and that's the joy. That's the scopophilia for me. That's the joy of seeing that I see and that I experience when I capture these. There you have it. I'm done. Who's next?
Okay. Mark, you're up next.
Alrighty, alrighty. All right. Did I put this one as the first one? I think I
Okay, I
had.
apologize.
No worries.
Give me a sec.
I guess it really
No,
does.
no, give me a sec because I just.
Yeah.
Mm, uh, My apologies.
No worries. All right. Greg, you talked about the joy of seeing. Yesterday, my family and I, we
What
went
it
on
means to you.
what it means to me.
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
What it means to me is, we all have these cameras in our pockets at this point, and some of us insist on carrying, more dedicated electronics that are, or specifically take a picture first, and maybe it goes through a phone somewhere, or maybe it doesn't. But at the end of the day, we're all very much street photographers these days. We go
Not
to.
you.
Pardon me.
Not you.
I think everyone is to some extent. I just don't
Go ahead.
always show
I,
what I take.
yeah.
So I think in the main thing is that so my family and I, we went for a walk on the promenade yesterday, and downtown Brooklyn, and there is a series of concerts that they're doing at the on one of the blocks on in Brooklyn Heights, and I can't for the life of me. Oh, it's Montague Street. And believe it or not, this woman was singing. The gentleman with the tuxedo was singing just before her, and you see there's a guy with a towel over his head. I couldn't quite figure out what it is at first, but I'm presuming that with his towel, he's got a camera. I guess he's probably doing real video or something like that. In any event, this is in front of the Arthur Miller residence. Apparently, Arthur Miller had lived there at some point, and because it has this really wonderful stairwell and it has a famous art history, they are, doing these series concerts. And of course, by the distance that you can see between the audience and the performer, it's obviously in the time of COVID. So this was yesterday,
Hmm.
and you can see people are sort of backed up to the curb. In the old days, and by the old days I mean 2019, they would have been much closer, maybe at the bottom of the steps at the closest. Uh, And that's really, the joy of seeing is that you see that despite the fact that we have a new normal where we're all distant and having these meetings on the computer and all of that, people are still trying to find a way, like we're crawling out from under nuclear Armageddon, like we were all troglodytes for some point, and we're all sort of creeping out of the tunnels to kind of find one another again as the weather gets warmer and the general safety is a little bit greater. With the vaccinations and the masking and the.
So the joy is in the social.
Well, the joy for me
construct?
was for me to see people performing again and people starting to have events. I mean, I photographed a lot of sports and a lot of events, but it's just I'm just happy to see that this type of thing is going on. So for me, it was very, that was joyful for me to see
Mhm.
this human experience returning to some semblance.
Did we lose him?
Mark,
No, I said,
we,
I,
we
I
lost.
said, no, I said for me, like seeing the human experience return to some semblance of normalcy,
Uh-huh.
that was the joy of seeing. I mean, I saw this, event going on, and it was really nice. I mean, we saw it, we stood, we listened to a few songs, and it was just nice to see people doing evening summer style evening entertaining again.
Mhm.
You can go to the next one.
Why am I having problems with yours? There we go. Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, excuse me, back in March, actually, not even a couple of weeks, back in March, maybe about 2 months ago, we went to Atlantic City for a couple of days. And uh, even though it was cold and it was gray, it was just nice to see this footbridge where people walk, like a little pier near one of the hotels. And even though it was maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the lights were on, so it gave this sort of misty, sort of a San Francisco feel, even though we were in Atlantic City. And you
Mhm.
had lights, and it was just nice to see just individuals. Once again, in this case, they were socially distanced. So when you in normal times, a footbridge like this, if there are people walking, they tend to walk a little bit more closely. But you can still tell that people are just sort of keeping their distance. But it was nice to see that people, even 2 months ago, were starting to, get outside and, you know, get back to life. It was like the beginning of life. And I probably should have had this one as the first image, but it was just nice to see. And so I really like seeing the people. I really like seeing how the light was the street lights were glowing in the day. And I liked how the fog was so thick that it reminded me of San Francisco. It also reminded me of that Pratt uh, drawing assignment we had where you would have to draw the space in between the buildings. You
Okay.
remember that
Mhm.
with the circle? So,
Yeah.
and I like seeing the reflection of the lights and the ripples in the water. So, I took a picture because it was nice.
Mhm.
And you can go to the third one.
Okay. Well, I'm enjoying this picture because to me it's okay. Very. Oh gosh, what's the word? Um,
Moody?
Moody. Yes, moody, and yeah, moody would be the closest. I can't pick the word, but it's about the feeling of the space, or the feeling of the air. What's that word? Atmosphere. Thank you very much. Atmosphere.
Yeah,
It's a pretty intense atmosphere, and it's what I would think that would represent a very cloudy, cold afternoon.
yeah, it's funny. Usually, when people photograph piers, and they take piers, and they start to look like this, it's usually a time exposure, and the water sort of looks like glass. Excuse me, and you can see the the mist where the water splashes against the pylons, that kind of thing. And it's usually on a very sunny day, so they have to have a long exposure. But because it was a very dark day,
Yeah.
I could use a quick shutter and get sort of that mood that you get from that kind of imagery without having to use a tripod and time exposure and neutral density filters and all that. So it's just a really natural capture.
Okay.
Okay. And you can go to the third one.
I'm at the third one. You don't see it?
All right. I see it now. There's a little bit of a lag apparently on my end. All right. Now this one, I think all of us who've grown up in New York, we particularly our age, we saw the Canyon of Heroes, and the Canyon of Heroes, Canyons of Heroes. And then and if we weren't fortunate enough to see any of the ticker tape parades live, when you finally got there, you'd go, oh, wow, this is, the Canyon of Heroes. And I used to work in that area when I worked for a copier company. And, I would always be amazed at the fact that the Woolworth building was the tallest building in the world for a long time. Anyway, the fact that this was the Canyon of the Heroes, and today is the day when the 23-ton space flotsam is supposed to come crashing down on Earth, the only thing I could think of was, why are we not shooting this down? Oh, yeah, that's right. We said we weren't going to shoot this down. So the Canyon of Heroes, where you always saw these astronauts sort of, have their ticker tape parade, the Woolworth building, I had this photo, and it was a very standard photo. But then I after I was thinking about the way this item is going to splash down on Earth somewhere, and that everyone would normally say, why don't we shoot it down? The fact that the space program was kind of in my thoughts, I just cropped this image. Right? It wasn't originally a square. It wasn't originally tilted, and it had a lot more information to it.
Okay.
But I felt that the Canyon of Heroes and turning the Woolworth building practically into a Pershing 1A missile on the same day that the 23-ton space junk is going to drop on our heads. That seemed about right. So it was, I finally realized that the joy of seeing this wasn't so much just that it was the Canyon of Heroes, but that it represented sophisticated aeronautics. And that's a very convoluted way of saying it, but that's what I really realized about that view of the Canyon of Heroes for me, is that because there were so many astronauts in films that have traveled down that road with ticker tape parades, those buildings represent more than banking. They represent space travel. And it's an appropriate view of that building for today. Maybe not for next Tuesday, but certainly for today.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of interesting that you actually had a perception, then you changed the way you wanted to show your perception by augmenting the image to a different way for something that was created by you in your thoughts.
Right. So originally, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so to relate to other people who are not you.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because originally it was just, childish fandom, but then it became sort of this, relatively, cynical, artistic interpretation of what the Canyon of Heroes would mean. As I was sort of looking through, images that I had for this particular presentation, and I got a new sense of a joy of seeing and how my mind was working before, and how the little spark of excitement I got when revisiting that same scene as an image rather than in life.
Yeah. I got you. It's just interesting because, okay, so, I mean, two things that stick out for me for your presentation is, one is the first image seems to be cathartic for you. And the third image seems to be your sarcastic slant to life.
Yes. Yeah, I'll give you like one is sort of what the third one was sort of more humorous only because we've got this thing.
Okay.
There are other photographs
Right.
I could have used,
Right. And
but
what's interesting is that I would only get the sarcasm from your description, not necessarily from the image itself.
no.
So it's kind of interesting to hear what you have to say about the image versus what I would assume the image to be without your interpretation.
Right,
So
but if it were in a gallery and I put the legend next to it, the Canyon of Heroes,
uh-huh.
you have to think about it for a while, and then you kind of go, "It kind of looks like a missile." I don't know if the missile. Oh, okay, it's a long,
Yeah.
shaggy dog, piece.
Yeah, and I will agree with you that once you turned it on an angle, it more with me identified as a missile than just its own building. So it was an interesting thing to think about, man.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
it, it's amazing what goes on in our minds as we conceive and our ideas and execute our ideas, and
right,
how others understand our original ideas to be,
right. I mean,
or don't understand.
as you can see, I put a lot of thought into my photographs, while I'm taking them, as well as afterwards.
Uh,
And it's just an interesting way of seeing for me. And that last one was really more about reinterpreting an image. That's really about it.
okay.
Which gave me joy. So there I go. I got joy twice. As I said.
Cool. Greg, anything?
Nope.
Okay, doke. So, Mark, I'll move on to mine. All right, guys? Okay, so I guess if I were to describe what you're about to see, well, let me just share the images and I'll just, oh, yeah, that would be nice not to share that, but to actually share that. Okay, doke. What? Now, we were, the idea was to just, show things that are, or images that represent seeing. And for me, seeing is more intuitive than actually physically seeing, because when you see from the perspective that your eye is at. You don't see from the perspective that an attachment, an appendage that you have in your hand is at. So in other words, when I took this photograph, I was not looking through the camera. So I was assuming where the frame was going to be, as I typically do. It's called shooting from the hip. And so it's more intuitive in seeing, in trying to relate what I'm seeing to what my hand is supposed to tell the viewer what I'm seeing, if that makes any sense. So
So would you say that's like, isn't that like pre-visualization? So you
it's
have an idea of
this
what
is
you want.
this is not pre-visualization. It's actually, I would more call it actualization than pre-visualization, because
Okay.
you are in the sense augmenting, continually augmenting what you see and connecting it to your hand, so your hand can sort of represent what your eyes are seeing, but they'll never be exactly the same because you're not looking through a camera. So you do as best you can. And so your intuition and your history with what the technology that you have gives you an idea of approximation about how accurate you're going to be. So the longer you
That gives
practice,
you a certain kind of joy, though, that you can capture stuff without looking.
yes, yeah, it's
Okay.
the joy. And that is the joy in seeing extended to the idea of intuition, because the joy in seeing is again through your eyes. The joy of intuition is everything else extended beyond that. So
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out where in the heck this frame is going to be based on that, and I'm like, yeah. And of course, connecting the moment with all that to come together to display something like such as this, and with this unique perspective on it. So I just love intuition and seeing, because most of the time you don't know what you're going to get, and so
Mhm.
when you do get an approximation of what you thought you were going to get, you turn out to be pretty happy.
I got to be honest with you, Ken. The proximity I just find immensely unnerving. you know,
Yes.
it's
Well,
just wow.
as a photographer, sitting on a train underneath another passenger and taking the notion to don't be scared, just do it. Don't think about it, just do it. And so
You're a
yeah,
lot closer to people on a train than you would ever do normally. To capture it on in an image, that changes the
Hmm.
whole, you
Yeah,
know. But it's cool. I like
yeah,
the perspective. I like
yeah.
what the
It's
camera does to an image.
Yeah, definitely does. So with that, let's go into the next one. And of course, as you could tell, I think you'll get an idea of what's prevalent in most of my images. I love being close to people because I think we get the most feeling of people, even in a photograph. And again, this is intuitive. And in this particular instance, I'll admit I was looking through camera, and I was just aiming and waiting for a moment to happen. So I'm holding my camera in front of my eye, and I'm looking out my other eye, and I'm seeing people cross by me, and I'm anticipating someone crossing in front of the frame. So intuition again, and just love seeing up close. I think there's definitely a certain intimacy, and when you have intimacy with strangers, it's kind of a it's actually it's an interesting thing to have it. And I think there's this idea of people watching that I enjoy, and I think this ramps it up to another level, because when you're usually watching people, you're usually watching them from a distance. When you're capturing people such as this, you're capturing them up close, and the fear that you might have at the moment in being that close is relieved, because when you take these images back home and you look at them, the fear is gone, because it's no longer tied to the living item, the living person. It's tied to the image of that person. Therefore, you can generously look at it as much as you want to. Of course, one of those things where I don't know if you were told, but my mom always said, don't stare at people, right? It's not nice to stare, right? Well, this is my way to stare.
You've been very, very
with,
rebellious for a
right.
number of years now.
Right. So this is my way to stare without technically staring. Okay. And again, oh, okay. I think this one's a little bit cropped off, but yeah, that one's cropped off. So that's actually the full frame there. So again, up close, people passing by, and I just love uh, seeing this in improvising and being intuitive while I'm taking the photograph, seeing after I take the photograph. Two-step process: seeing while I'm there, but also seeing I love Greg's angle. Yes, it's good to see. I like the way you
Yeah,
looked at that.
it's cool. It's a
Yeah,
very that see this to me is fun. You know, I mean, and people are fun. People doing things are fun, and the way you're capturing it is like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So you're having fun in the process, which is great.
yeah. It's the love of photography, the love of being out there, and the love of photographing um, is the reason why I actually do this consistently, constantly, day in, day out, year in, year out. It ain't stopping. So that song "Ain't No Stopping Us Now." Ain't
Ain't
no
no
stopping me.
stopping
Ain't no
now.
stopping me now. I
It's
can
gonna
honestly
be.
see myself doing this until I am no longer able to stand. So, and even if I'm not able to stand, I may still do it. So,
There
that's
you go.
that's my love for this. So,
See,
that
love, and you said love.
oh yeah,
It's
I love
love.
seeing, I love photographing, I love being around people, I love looking at people, I love people watching, and I love picture watching of the people that I'm watching.
Are you enjoying? You got the Scopophilia going?
Yeah, definitely do.
Cool, cool. That's all I wanted. That's really what I wanted. Because it's if you're not enjoying what you're seeing, you're not photographing. It's like if you're thinking of something else, it's like sure that comes as a playlist, that runs through your head when you. But I just enjoy seeing.
Yeah,
That's just you know,
yeah,
and the whole. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. I think it's when we get used to things, we forget to use them the way we originally began to use them at first. So, it's like the toy car that you got as a kid was
Ah,
really great that first day you got it. But a week
right,
later, it's like, it's old.
right.
It's like you're ready to throw it away, but you don't. remember the joy you had when it was first put in your hand. So I think what we have to do is continue to go back to the original time when we first had that joy, to remember that joy, and to see if we can pull some of that joy forward to the current space that we're in. And I think what happens is, and I think some of us do it in certain ways. Some of us do it by continually buying new gear. Others do it by alcohol, whatever, drugs, or what have you. Right? Photographers, I do it by taking pictures, So, yeah, that's my spiel. I'm done.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. That was great. I mean, if I could have defined scopophilia, the joy of seeing any better, or joy of photography, the joy in capturing an image, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Ah, gosh, yeah. I'm there. I'm so good. I'm so good. I enjoyed that.
I liked what the photograph, the story of the photograph tells. That's what I love most about
Yeah.
seeing things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because to each person's going to have their own story, but as long as they're being told the story, I think is sort of the important point, right? From the perspective of the photographer, I would figure
Right,
that it has to
right.
be, right?
That's what I'm interested in. It's like what about the image that you capture brings you joy?
Yeah.
If it's one thing or another, backstory is great, but yeah,
Okay,
that's
Greg.
it. That's it.
Yeah, you want to close it off?
Yeah, well, that's it. That's going to do it for this episode of Scopophilia. Trust me, friends, there will be part twos and 2.0s and et cetera, because photography is about seeing, writing with light. So there we are. Thank you for joining us. Please, please, please subscribe. Hit the button so you get reminders, and leave us a note, a message, and check out our websites. Our websites should be at the bottom of the YouTube page. Thanks, Ken, for showing up. Thanks for your images. And that's Mark Skinner. And we are doing a photo talk. And we have 3 Black Pride grads. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Oh, I'm Greg Clay.